Good evening, everybody. Merry Christmas to everyone. Obviously, we're going online again, obviously from the universe virus. That is in the best interest of everybody that we go online rather than be in person at the council chambers. So we'll do the best we can. So Allison, could you do a roll call?
Your Worship, I confirm that I, Clerk Allison Adams, CAO Adam Betteridge, are in attendance at the Township office. For those participating by video conference, please answer present when your name is called. Mayor Manel.
Present.
Deputy Mayor Jaguar.
Present.
Councillor Widner.
Present.
Councillor Moore.
Present.
Councillor Cerna.
Present.
Councillor Lewis.
Present.
Councillor Galinsky.
Present.
Director of Finance Adam Boylan.
Present.
Director of Fire and Emergency Services Jeff Sporer.
Present.
Manager of IT Cecil Coxon.
Present.
Drainage Superintendent Bob Lopez.
Present.
Water Wastewater Manager Sam Gustafson.
Present.
And that is everyone.
Thanks, Allison. Next is disclosure of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof.
I have one, Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead, Mark.
Item D1, the McGinnis drain.
Okay, so noted. The minutes from December the 2nd, was there any errors or omissions? Mover and second for those minutes in, please.
I'll move it.
Moore and Cerna, all in favor? Allison?
Councillor Widner.
Yes.
Councillor Moore.
Yes.
Councillor Cerna.
Yes.
Councillor Lewis.
Yes.
Councillor Galinsky.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Jaguar.
Yes.
Mayor Mennel.
Yes,
That's carried.
thank you. Next, we have the McGinnis drain. Mike DeVos is here, I believe. Yeah, Mike. Will you give us a outline of the nature of the proposed work, Mike?
Sure. This report was prepared in accordance with Section 4 of the Drainage Act for a new municipal drain. There was a request to extend the McGinnis drain downstream. There is an existing private ditch / water course that goes downstream of the existing drain, and it is not currently providing a sufficient outlet for the farm in the north half of lot 21 concession 2. So the request was to do a ditch clean out from that point downstream a sufficient distance to provide an outlet for the tiles that are there, and as well incorporate the control structure for an offline pond that is right in that same particular area where we would be starting at the bottom of the drain. So we had an on-site meeting. We prepared a draft report and presentation and reviewed that with the owners. So we are proposing to clean out 258 meters of channel and level the material decided and incorporate the control structure for future maintenance purposes and water level information. We did have to investigate the ditch and the existing municipal drain upstream far enough to accommodate the water levels that would be set by the water control structure. Now I'll stop and open up to questions.
Okay, thank you, Mike. Allison, was there anyone that submitted any comments or about the drainage report?
Through your worship, there was no written comments regarding the drainage report.
Okay, any members of councils have any questions? Seeing none, mover and seconder report number engineers report for the McGinnis Drain 2021 prepared by Streets Associate London Limited, dated October 28, 21 be accepted. That bylaw number 21-87 being a bylaw to provide for the McGinnis Drain 2021 drainage works be read a first, second at time and provisionally adopted. Mover and seconder.
I'll move it.
Lewis, Cerna,
Second it. Yeah.
all in favor? Allison? You're muted. There you
Yeah,
go.
sorry, Councillor Widner.
Obviously.
Councillor Moore.
Yes.
Councillor Cerna.
Yes.
Councillor Lewis.
Yes.
Councillor Galinsky.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Jiguer,
Yes.
Mayor Mennel,
Yes.
that's carried.
Thank you. And a mover and second, the corridor revision from McGinnis Drain 2021 be scheduled to be held on January 20th, 2022 at 7:30. Mover and seconder,
Move it.
Lewis and Serna, all in favor?
Counselor Moore,
Yes.
Counselor Cerna,
Yes.
Counselor Lewis,
Yes.
Counselor Galinsky,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Jiguer,
Yes.
Mayor Mennel,
Yes.
that's carried.
And finally, the tenders for the construction of McGinnis Drain 2021 be requested for January 13th, 2022 at 11 a.m. Mover and seconder,
I'll move it.
Galinsky, seconder,
Jiguer, I'll second.
Jiguer, all in favor?
Counselor Moore,
Yes.
Counselor Cerna,
Yes.
Counselor Lewis,
Yes.
Counselor Galinsky, Counselor Galinsky, Deputy Mayor Jiguer,
Yes.
Mayor Mennel,
Yes.
that's carried.
Thank you. Next, we have a public meeting in regard to our Malahide official plan number 20. This is the third meeting to discuss the comprehensive review and 5-year update of the official plan for the Township of Malahide. And this allows those members of the public who submitted concerns with the provision to speak on matters relating to the proposed revision. So I believe that Jay and Dan are here.
Good evening, Mayor Mennel.
All right, we'll let you have the floor then, Jay.
Thank you, Mayor Mennel. Good evening, and good evening to members of council, staff, and the public. It's a pleasure to be here this evening. Am I okay to share my screen?
Certainly.
Thank you. Can everybody see the slideshow?
Mhm.
Perfect. So as the mayor has mentioned, we're here this evening to review the final draft of the official plan amendment. It'll be official plan amendment number 20. That's the culmination of the municipal comprehensive review and official plan review for adoption. Just quickly covering over an agenda, I'll read through a number of slides up front. I'll move fairly quickly through it. It's information that all of council will have heard before, and many will have heard in terms of the planning process. But I'll be defining quickly what a comprehensive review is, what that means in terms of the context of the presentation this evening and the work that's been completed to update the official plan. Briefly discuss the purpose of this meeting this evening, look at the planning environment in which this work has been completed under, look at the legislative framework and the provincial policy statement and the county official plan and the various levels of authority in which the municipality's official plan has to be prepared within. Then talk about the policy review that was undertaken to inform your changes, as well as the mapping changes that have arisen out of the municipal comprehensive review and the analysis of the appropriate disposition of lands designated for development in your community. And then we'll open it up for discussion of the public and council. So very quickly, what is a comprehensive review? By definition in the provincial policy statement prepared by the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing, it's a review of the official plan that considers alternative directions for growth or development and determines how best to accommodate that development within provincial interest. So it considers numerous items, including population and employment and projections in terms of looking at how many persons are anticipated to need to be housed within your community and how many people are within the activity rate, within the working ages in the cohorts that are projected in terms of lands that would be needed to accommodate for employment. Then we look at an evaluation of alternative directions for growth and development, and part of that looks at where your servicing infrastructure is within your service settlement areas and where best to allocate our growth. And then opportunities to accommodate a percentage of growth through infill and intensification in our already established growth areas, taking into account physical constraints and accommodating proposed development that's already existing, and looking at the planning for infrastructure and public service facilities and the ability to provide municipal sewage and water services, as well as considering cross-jurisdictional issues in relation with, in this instance, the County of Elgin. So we're here this evening to review the proposed changes and the update to the policy document. The township has reviewed the findings of the recommendation of the background report that we presented in June of 2021. And we're now in a position to move forward with the adoption of the amendment to the official plan to formally reflect those desired changes. And this meeting, its purpose is to offer the opportunity for council and the public to review the changes that have been posted and to consider official plan amendment number 20 for the purposes of adoption. So briefly, the planning environment. So the official plan that we're currently working in was actually adopted in August of 2001 and subsequently received approval by the province in 2003. So the document itself, it's from its inception, is 20 years old. The official plan is required to conform to the County of Elgin official plan and must be consistent with the provincial policy statement. Your official plan has received 19 amendments. Several of those amendments were comprehensive reviews or updates to the policy document, similar as the one tonight. The last time your official plan was updated comprehensively was in 2013. So we're 8 years into that document. And at the time that this plan prior to tonight was put into force, it was before the County of Elgin brought forward their official plan. Their official plan is now being reviewed as well. So it has been in place, I believe, since 2015. And we've also got a new provincial policy statement. So the provincial policy statement that was guiding the policy direction in your current official plan was authored in 2015, and that was updated last year in May of 2020. So this document now puts into place policy recommendations that are consistent with and conform to the provincial policy updates, as well as the Elgin County official plan updates. So the updates related to the current projections in the planning framework that we're proposing reflect the current situation and the most recent population projections that were undertaken by your development charges study, projecting to the year 2045. Again, acknowledging the hierarchy of the county official plan in the planning process, reiterating the matters of provincial interest in the policies outlined in the PPS, and updating policies related to settlement areas to mirror the policies in that new PPS document. PPS is the short form, by the way, for Provincial Policy Statement, for those that may not know. Some of the new elements that are being brought forward through the new official plan update are the introduction of cannabis production and processing policies. A new section is being added to provide direction on the regulation of cannabis operations resulting from several inquiries that have been received by the township to date. The federal government has issued sweeping approvals with regard to the ability to develop cannabis production and processing facilities. And there are some significant impacts and land use compatibility matters that need to be addressed when dealing with cannabis production and processing facilities. Essentially, the official plan update will permit cannabis production and processing in agricultural and industrial designations where it can be thoroughly demonstrated by the applicant that the use will be compatible with the existing and the surrounding land uses. And there are significant updates to the official plan in terms of the studies and the extent to which studies have to be undertaken to ensure that land use compatibility. Other updates include in the rural and agricultural development policy sections, additional language on on-farm diversified uses to provide the township with greater flexibility when assessing the type of uses permitted and the standards applying to such uses. The expansion of secondary dwelling unit policies, now permitting secondary dwelling units within a single detached or accessory building on lands that are designated agriculture, where your current OP only addresses and permits second dwelling units in designated settlement areas. updates to the granny flat policies to permit granny flats or garden suites for family members. Some fairly significant updates in terms of industrial policies in the community. Policies that deal with the conversion of employment lands resulting from updates to the provincial policy, and a new policy to bring forward a home-based industrial park designation. This is modeled on similar home-based industrial parks, one very close to Malahide in the township of the municipality of Thames Centre along Highway 401. And what it does is it really allows for home occupation uses to be put in place in an industrial environment with specific policies dealing with land use separation and mitigation, and attempts at developing these types of industrial uses, home-based uses, so that they can live harmoniously amongst one another and provide these types of opportunities, specific locations within the municipality, so that the municipality isn't constantly being asked to provide for these types of land uses in every location throughout the municipality, in an attempt to focus land use impact into certain areas of like-minded individuals and property owners. With regard to future urban growth, probably the most significant element of this official plan update is taking a look at the large amounts of land that have been dispersed throughout the municipality since amalgamation. There is a lot of legacy designated land from former municipalities that have been spread out into communities across Malahide. And looking at the direction of both the provincial policy statement and the county official plan for the direction of growth into serviced settlement areas, in relation to matters of provincial interest, to ensure that you have sufficient lands, not only in your land supply budget, but also in the right place in order to be able to accommodate growth and development while meeting the other policy requirements of directing growth and development into serviced settlement areas. The introduction of a future urban growth designation, acknowledging that lands will eventually be developed for urban land uses and provide a degree of flexibility insofar as it's difficult to forecast at this time the exact composition of all of the land uses, and putting in place a policy environment to evaluate those land uses through future amendments to the plan outside of a comprehensive review, which would allow development to occur with less impact of planning process. A number of factors are expected to accelerate demand for housing in Springfield. The future urban growth designation is being put forward to help the township maintain that flexibility to address these shifting trends. Looking more specifically at the land supply and the demand, after undertaking the municipal comprehensive review and balancing your population projections to 2045 and comparing that to your current land supply budget, that's the number of hectares of land you currently have for development in your community, there was no justification for any expansions to any of your settlement areas. Essentially, you have enough land within your current holdings to accommodate the projected population growth over the long term, the planning horizon of the next 25 years. So in looking at those matters of provincial interest and ensuring that you've got lands appropriately located to be able to accommodate growth and to act as a catalyst for growth and development, a structure in the framework was to look at the reallocation of underdeveloped, unserviced lands in the unserviced settlement areas to refocus that development and shuffle those land uses toward your largest settlement area of Springfield that is currently developed on sanitary services, and providing opportunity to assist in incentivizing opportunities for development that will eventually bring forward water into the community so that development can proceed on full municipal servicing. Through the process, we've received several comments from members of the public who have reviewed the official plan. We've provided a table summary in our presentation. We've received comments from Rosemary Kennedy, who had expressed some concerns in regard to an industrial designation. The township is advised that that change in land use from agricultural and industrial does not force an owner to development, but simply directs growth and where development can occur should it be desired in the future. As a recommendation, there was no change. Tristan Ballant, the owner's property backs onto newly residential designated lands that's proposed for development, and the owner was seeking information about the timelines. Information on those timelines was provided to the individual and no change was recommended. Bob and Roseanne Kuiper had submitted information. They're owners of land, part of which is proposed to be removed from the settlement area of Luton. New information had been provided through the process, and a reevaluation of that information and the amount of investment that's been made into the planning for that development has resulted in a recommendation for a change from what was originally put forward in a revision to the settlement area boundary to maintain those lands within the settlement area. I'll refer to those more specifically when I get to the slides on the proposed changes. We've received submission from Mr. David Rowe on behalf of Shackleton Auctions. They were seeking to expand an existing auction establishment. Our recommendation was to expand the boundary, the special policy area, to reflect the most recent proposal. Ian Cousins, owners seeking a designation to permit commercial, industrial, and residential on 20 hectares of land on York Line abutting the village of Belmont. Subsequent to submission, municipal staff had discussions with David Cousins, and it was understood the owner has no objection to the proposed agricultural designation. No changes are being recommended. Kelvin Sarlus and Dick Greenway concur with the recommendations that the land situated on the east side of Dorchester abutting Kingsmill's Corners be designated as a home-based business. It was noted at the June 28th meeting that the Kingsmill area was one of those potential locations for home-based industrial park. Council will ultimately decide which locations will be considered. We received some additional correspondence. There was a mapping error that went out on the published version of the mapping. We'd like to thank Mr. Sarlus and Mr. Greenway for bringing that to our attention. It was intended that that land use designation would be bound by the settlement area boundary, and we've proposed to make that revision as noted on the land use schedules that you'll see this evening. And just finishing up, correspondence from Lisa and Steve Holmes. They reside at 48299 Ron McNeil Line. They were opposed to land situated to the west of Dorchester Road being changed to from agricultural to home-based business. The settlement area being extended to include the subject lands as part of the home-based industrial park designation remains our recommendation. We also received correspondence from Will Hayho of Hayho Homes supporting the direction of growth and development into the village of Springfield on full municipal services, as well as correspondence from Mr. Doug Terry from Doug Terry Homes, again, supporting provision of municipal water supply to the village of Springfield. As a result, there were no changes recommended on either of those submissions. So that concludes the comments that were received on the recommended changes to official plan amendment number 20. Just take council briefly through the proposed changing in mapping. You'll see that Springfield has a different delineation. Springfield is proposing growth to proceed to the south predominantly. New lands are proposed for designation for residential in the northwest. Lands into a future growth designation in the northeast and in the south and west. This particular hatch pattern is that future urban growth designation. Lands with the vertical stripes are from redesignation from agriculture to residential. So we have a plot of land in this location, a small round out in this location, as well as an addition in the south of Springfield proper at the moment. Lands being redesignated from agricultural to commercial are the red stripes, and lands going into open space to reflect natural heritage features in the green. lands going to home-based industrial park in the blue dash lines, and lands going to full-on industrial in the blue squares. So that essentially, and then some additional lands going from residential to commercial along Ron McNeil line in the main corridor of Springfield. The black area, the black line surrounding will be the new settlement area boundary for the community of Springfield. We move into the village of Port Bruce. The areas identified in gray stripe, totaling 58.9 hectares, are proposed to be removed from the residential designation and designated into the open space designation to reflect the natural heritage features in those areas. In the hamlet settlement area of Avon, taking a look at the existing development that has occurred to date is all linear strip development along the existing roads, pardon me. 26.8 hectares surrounding that has been proposed to be redesignated, removed from Avon and redirected to Springfield. Same thing in Colton. We're looking at 11.2 hectares in total, splitting between the north and the south portions of the settlement area, proposed to be removed and relocated to Springfield. Again, in Copenhagen, similar situation, two tracts of land on either side of Imperial Road, beyond the first tier of development that exists on the existing right-of-way, 32.8 hectares being proposed to be redirected into Springfield. The village of Kingsmill Corners, this was the one that was identified by Mr. Greenway and Sarloos. This is, we've added a star on here, the star being that the recommendation is being updated, that the mapping error should have included the black dash settlement area boundary around the blue designation. The settlement of Luton, again, this was, I believe, Ruth Ann Kuipers, if I'm recalling the name correctly, was the request. They had provided evidence to the municipality of all the technical planning and engineering background work that had already been included on the property for the purposes of development. And the land has subsequently been removed from our recommendation and will remain in the settlement area boundary. So we will redraw the settlement area boundary to where it was prior to the schedule being prepared. Same scenario in the village of Lyons, looking at the lands to the north and the south, 7.6 hectares, and their abilities and constraints for development, and proposing reallocation of land supply via land area of designation into Springfield. Village areas of Mount Salem, again, approximately 20.9 hectares. Again, looking at the tiers beyond the immediate developable parcels of land and parcels that are constrained or have not been subject to development proposals or development interest. And similar situation in Orwell, 4.6 hectares identified to be removed. Same situation in South Gore, looking at 2.9 hectares. Again, beyond the first row or first tier of development, access in some instances being an issue, and looking at balancing that land supply budget so that additional lands can be added into Springfield. Looking at the settlement area Elmer East, a conversion of lands from suburban area to home-based industrial park. Looking at the suburban settlement area of Elmer West, the removal of 8.9 hectares of land at the southwest limit. And a site-specific amendment on Lyons, changing from agriculture to specific policy area number 13. So in total, taking a look at the land allocations or reallocations, approximately 177 hectares are being proposed to be removed from agriculture and open space. And approximately just shy of that 176 hectares proposed to be added to hamlet settlement areas and the village of Springfield. That concludes the formal presentation. Myself and Dan are here and able to respond to any questions of council and or the public. Thank you, Mr.
Okay,
Mayor.
thank you, Jay, for that presentation. Allison, was there any additional comments received from agencies?
Yes, there was, through your worship, there was some comments received after the agenda was prepared. There was a comment received from David Rowe on December the 14th in regards to, I would like to speak to council regarding the proposed redesignation of lands in Carlton on behalf of my client, Caroline Davis. Please provide me a link. On December 15th, Rob Durick wrote, I would like to comment on the new official plan for Malahide. I won't be able to attend virtual meeting for the 16th of December. I would like to see development across the township, not restricted to just the areas that are proposed. I've always been available to openly discuss with planners. However, they never seem to be willing to speak to ratepayers. Maybe in the future that will change. Thanks for the opportunity to comment, Rob Durick. And received on December the 15th from Bill McIntyre. I had a discussion with Adam recently, and he explained the strategy being used in the official plan amendment. I understand what he said, but did not believe in designating land that cannot be developed anytime soon. He said the province, the county, as well as the consultant and planners all wanted growth to occur in areas that offered full municipal services. I mentioned that was on the wish list as well way back in the 1980s and the 90s. But if you do not have full services, growth is still required in order to provide services without dramatic tax increases. In Malahide, has increased assessment through growth not occurred in the last 5 years, the taxes would be at least 15% higher. The official plan updated with growth focused in Springfield when water becomes available may occur, but realistically, this strategy is at least 6 to 10 years away and should not be the only plan for growth in the next 5 years. We need land available to allow a controlled development in order to maintain services at affordable prices. Let's designate a few lots in hamlets like Carlton, Hacienda Road, Copenhagen, Luton, Lyons, Kingsmill, Avon, etc. The fact that 2 developers support having full services in Springfield would only be meaningful if they had submitted a purchase order along with a check to purchase 25 to 50 lots and paid development fees and agreed house would be built within a fixed period of time. And that was all of the comments received.
Thanks, Allison. Jay, do you want to wish to comment on those that sent in inquiries?
I can, Madam Mr. Mayor, thank you. In regard to the first comment represented by Mr. Rowe, I believe the proposal that Mr. Rowe was going to speak to, and I'm not sure if he's here and wishes to speak to it, was that he wanted to have some of the land removed that was at a second tier. So lands that needed to have a public road constructed through an area that was already developed, and to open the rear lands up for subdivision development. The reason this is problematic is because it's very costly. The low-hanging fruit is to take and carve off a couple of lots that already front onto an existing road, so there's no cost to the landowner through that process. And then we end up with ribbon and strip development. So essentially what Mr. Rowe is asking for on behalf of his client was to take lands that were being removed from that second tier and reallocating them on their same farm parcel along Richmond Line to the south and creating an entire row of ribbon or strip development, allowing a number of houses to be severed off from the farm holding, fronting directly onto Richmond Street. That does not stand the test of good planning. That is what we refer to as ribbon development. There are examples of it in the community. There's lots of examples around. But because the examples exist doesn't mean that they're good. The direction of land use planning has gone to compact urban form. looking at creating compact use and not creating urban sprawl or spread into the agricultural community. And we won't be, our recommendation is not to support that request. The next element, and I'm sorry, I've forgotten the Mr. Durick. I don't ever recall being contacted by Mr. Durick. Again, there are still opportunities for infill development that exist throughout the community. I'm not aware of too many major subdivisions that have been proceeding in the last 5 years. Perhaps Mr. Betteridge can more formally respond to that when he has an opportunity. But essentially, if development's going to happen, there needs to be enough land so that a return on an investment into servicing infrastructure is available in order to be able to finance it. We're involved in these types of situations in municipalities around the province. And if you don't have a large enough land base to be able to get the money for the investment into the infrastructure out of the land, then you're not going to see the development. So having small blocks of land proliferating across the municipality doesn't benefit anybody unless they've got deep pockets and they're willing to take a hit on the cost it takes to put the road and the infrastructure in place. There was really no recommendation arriving from Mr. Durick's comments. It was more of a statement in terms of my read. I've certainly been available to speak to Mr. Durick, but I don't ever recall being directly contacted.
And Mr. McIntyre.
Oh gosh, I forgot Mr. McIntyre's point.
I believe he was apprehensive about development in Springfield and wanted to ensure that there was sufficient growth throughout the township.
Correct. I'm sorry. I was sort of speaking to both points at the same time. Same element in regard to, there is infill intensification opportunities that exist throughout the community. And it's about putting the eggs in the right baskets and ensuring that there is that magnitude of scale for return on investment.
Okay, thank you, Jay. Dick, do you wish to make comment, or Kevin, on there has been some revisions, and I know that you were speaking with Jay in regard to those revisions. Are you pleased with those revisions?
Yes, we are. Thank you.
And Dick?
Mayor?
Yes, we are definitely in concurrence with the changing of the settlement boundary. I understand there was some opposition from the next door neighbor to this proposal.
They have withdrawn their objection.
Oh, very good, because the plan that we submitted as far back as 2013 was that part of the land would be reforested, and which is of course environmentally acceptable to do that, and it would create a buffer between the two properties. And we also are showing a planting strip along Ron McNeil line to camouflage some of the noise from Ron McNeil line. So we're pleased. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dick. Any questions from council?
I have one.
Go ahead, Mark.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through to Jay or Dan. Seems to be the impression by some of these letters and comments that we're gathering up all the sellable lots and just knocking them off, and there won't be any lots left in the hamlets the way they would reside after. How many lots would still be available? Like at least 50 plus that could be developed?
Jay, you're Adam.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Sorry, I've been in front of a couple of councils. No disrespect, Mayor Mennel. I was dealing with a female mayor in Lucan before I came on here, and then I was dealing with City of London, and everybody goes by a different title. I don't know that I could specifically tell you the number of lots that could be analyzed. Dan, I'm not sure if you went to that level of specificity in your analysis. We were focused on looking at the opportunity for the growth in Springfield as part of our assessment and analysis.
Adam?
Yeah, and through you, your worship, too. If we were to walk through the schedules, we won't do that, but we can point to a number of larger parcels within the hamlets that are proposed to remain. They're not exactly highlighted on the schedules that Jay and Dan have provided us, so they're not highlighted or they're not shaded a different color, but they do exist. And if you put the sum of those parcels together, there would be well in excess of 50 parcels. Now, I think a common theme that what I've heard over the last number of weeks is that ability, as Jay was speaking to earlier about carving lots off of existing roadways. That's a form of development that isn't supported in the provincial policy statement or in general good planning. So there's two questions that I've heard about hamlets. Is there's going to be nothing left in the hamlets to develop, and that's what I would say is there will be a lot of lands left in the hamlets. They just haven't been identified or stick out as such in the schedules in front of council and the public this evening. They do exist. What they do promote, the way that they do exist, would be small plans of subdivisions. We've seen those forms of development happen in the last, over the last decade or so. We've seen a small subdivision in Lyons, and we've seen a small subdivision in Summers Corner. So there's still an ability to develop within the hamlet, but severing lots off along the existing roadways, as we've seen with the strip or ribbon style development, is a form of development that I don't think is sustainable for us as a township. It certainly provides a quick form of development, but long-term, in the interest of the township, the municipality, it's a very unsustainable form of development. So I hope that answers the question, Councillor Widner.
Yes, thank you.
Any other questions from council?
Now I have a question.
Go ahead, Jess.
What is the result of the feasibility study that was supposed to have taken place? Because I haven't heard anything about water coming soon into Springfield, and we're kind of going heavy on development and not much is being said about water.
Adam?
I know we're coming forward with money for the pipeline and tower. What was it, 19 million or something? Yeah.
Adam, you want to respond?
Yeah, so through you, your worship. Yeah, so the feasibility study is still being worked on, but it's a two-pronged approach. One doesn't necessarily need to come before the other. What I would say is that the feasibility of extending water to Springfield would be a lot less feasible if we have less lands to develop there. So if we don't allocate some lands to Springfield as this plan recommends, the feasibility of extending water to Springfield will be hindered because we will use lot creation and lot development to help fund that project. So that's the one thing. The other component as well is that the provincial policy statement has a high it does not encourage development on no services anymore. So what it allows for is limited development where no or partial services exist, but we can't have the amount of development that we like or need to see in those unserviced or partially serviced hamlets. What we do have is if we were to go back to the Copenhagen and the Lyons schedule, there's two pieces of land there that could support some development as well. So the feasibility analysis is still being worked on. The consultant is still very much involved. We've got new staff in place as well. So there's new eyes looking at it to make sure that when we do go to council, we have sound and accurate information to provide. But it doesn't necessarily mean that one has to go in front of the other. The planning policies of the province already stipulate that it's very difficult to develop in these unserviced areas.
I've already talked on trying to get
Any other questions from council?
Now I have another, if I may.
Go ahead, Jess.
The lands around that have been designated as residential, they are farmland now. Is there any guarantee that they are available for building lots, or will the people want to remain farming as they are, because some of them are large farmers.
Through you, your worship, the hamlet you mentioned, it might just have been on my end, Councillor Galinsky, but I didn't hear the settlement you were referring to.
The settlement of Springfield. There are a lot of areas that are as potential development, and do we have any that they will be available? In other words, are people willing to sell?
Per acre.
Oh, okay. I can hear some background noise. We haven't discussed with those specific property owners. This is a plan put forward on planning recommendations as what would make a good sustainable community and focusing growth where amenities and community aspects already exist. But it doesn't necessarily mean that we need commitment. If someone is non-committed, not interested in developing, we could look at other sections of Springfield to which such could occur. But I think what we could agree on is designating land for development is certainly a benefit. It provides a farmer with flexibility, and the consultant spoke to this about Rosemary Kennedy's parcel as well, as it doesn't force someone to stop farming.
Jay, you had another comment?
Thank you, Mayor Mennel. Through you, Mayor, to the councillor, just in addition to Adam's comments, some of the things to consider, there is no way to force a land developer to develop his land. What it does do, however, is it does increase the valuation of their land in terms of the fact that they are now inside the settlement area boundary and are available for growth. And that benefits them in the short term and or the long term, particularly if they're looking at multiple land ownerships. It may benefit the agricultural community because they may be able to benefit financially from the release of some farmland at a higher value that can be redirected into the farm elsewhere. But what it also does, and what the plan also attempts to do, is to not put all the eggs in the single basket. I know everyone is sort of thinking it looks like it's a redirection and giving everything to Springfield. But Springfield is where you've got your urban sanitary services, which are your most difficult services to provide. The other issue is that the way we've laid the lands out, we haven't given it to any one particular landowner. So if one landowner chooses not to develop, there are still other landowners within the designated lands that are potentially capable and able to sell the land for development or develop on their own. Typically, lands of this size are not developed by the landowner, but rather purchased by a developer and developed professionally. I hope that helps to assist, in addition to Mr. Betteridge's comments, to sort of understand that framework. But you're correct. Nobody is forcing anybody to develop, but it certainly incentivizes development. It creates a capacity of development so that the return on the investment is possible, that enough units can be generated by the cost to service and still have a return on that investment.
Okay, thanks, Jay. Any other questions from council?
Question.
One more thing.
Actually, I had two, but how much room is there in the lagoon for the extra housing? Because we do have who are coming from Springfield, but I do believe that there's some kind of a limit what we can pump into the lagoon. Does anyone?
Through you, your worship. Yes, Councillor Galinsky, you're correct. We do have remaining capacity in the sewage lagoons in Elmer. I believe, I don't have a number in front of me, but it would allow certainly a number of subdivisions to certainly get up and running. So the Township of Malahide does have remaining capacity allocation in those in the shared lagoons with the town of Elmer.
Is 150 houses the number that was thrown around before, or was it larger than that?
Through your worship, I would have to look into that. what I can do,
If I could
did
just add,
have,
if I recall, if everything was developed in Springfield, there was potential for 400.
400.
Absolutely right.
If everything was developed.
The other question that I had, Mayor Manel, do we have any consequences for people that don't play by the rule? I believe there's something in the plan as far as cannabis, and if somebody doesn't play by the rules, is there any consequences, or does it kind of just go away?
Jay?
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to Councillor Glinsky. The the consequences are really what the official plan policies do is they set out a fairly stringent framework for analysis and study. And through that analysis and study, a whole bunch of mitigation measures will be required. Those mitigation measures will be entrenched into the zoning bylaw, which is a prosecutable document. And there's also a requirement for site plan, which is a registered document on title, which is also prosecutable under the Planning Act. So violations that occur under both of those documents can be prosecuted, and there would be subsequent prosecutions potentially under the Environmental Protection Act for perhaps odor emissions, light emissions, or things of that nature. I'm not experienced in that particular legislation, but I do know that there are effects of impacts that extend beyond a property and affect other landowners that are regulated under the Environmental Protection Act. So there are numerous opportunities for enforcement through those policies.
Who does the prosecution in that, please?
Well, that depends. If it's a violation on the zoning bylaw, it would be the municipality. If it's a violation under the Environmental Protection Act, it would be the province.
and through you, Your Worship, if I may, those policies would only pertain to the commercial industrial type processing facilities where Health Canada has issued a license for those industrial commercial styles. It doesn't apply to those licenses that Health Canada issue for growing within or for health purposes within someone's home. That's it. That's separate.
Any other comments from council? Jay, can you give us an overview of the process going forward?
Sorry, if I might just weigh in once more before we move on. I know that Mr. Rowe had expressed a desire to speak this evening. I don't see him online, but I know he's been sent links a number of times. So I just want to make sure that if he's watching online or has decided not to tune in, just council is cognizant of that moving forward. I don't see him online, so but he did request to speak.
Okay. Once again, I don't see him on my screen, but certainly he's welcome to make comments if he's there. Mr. Rowe, are you there? Okay. No, seeing none. Jay will get back to you on the next steps.
Thank you, Your Worship. In terms of next steps, addressing any revisions is directed by council. So council has two revisions that we've proposed. That was the boundary adjustment in Kingsmill Corners and the Roseanne Kuiper property boundary adjustment to put the boundary back where it was. Council adoption of OPA number 20 had been targeted for January 6th, but could be adopted this evening with resolution in regard to the proposed changes that I just mentioned. Notice of adoption to be issued by the township no later than 15 days after the date of adoption. Official plan amendment number 20 and related information and correspondence will be forwarded to the approval authority, which is the County of Elgin, for consideration of approval. We do note that the county does not at this time have a managing planner. The County of Elgin can approve, modify, and approve as modified or refuse to approve the official plan amendment number 20 in accordance with the Planning Act. The notice of decision is issued by the county Once the notice of decision is issued, there is a 20-day appeal period after the giving of the notice of the decision. The applicable legislations in this matter are the Planning Act, RSO 1990 as amended, and Ontario Regulation OR 543/06 as amended.
Okay, thank you, Jay.
Through you, your worship, I may just speak once more. The notice that was issued, the statutory notice was issued, it considered or it advised that council would consider adoption of the official plan this evening. It was originally thought that a number of outstanding matters such as the Sarloos and Greenway lands and Kingsmill Corners, the Kuiper lands, and the general industrial, home-based industrial designations, we would need direction from council on those fronts. If council's deems it, they're satisfied with, so we've resolved some of those this evening. So what Jay's advice is council could pass that, adopt this official plan amendment this evening.
Okay, thank you, Adam. Any other questions from council before we proceed? Seeing none, mover and seconder, report number DS 21-62, entitled Township of Malahide Official Plan Comprehensive Review and 5-Year Updated Plan Final Consideration Report be received for information. And that council give direction to staff on any necessary changes to the official plan amendment and those amendments as we discussed tonight on those 3 areas. And that staff be directed to finalize the amendment for the council consideration for adoption on January 6, 2022. Mover and seconder.
Through your worship, or there was the other resolution as well that you had if you chose to pass that tonight.
This is on the amendments.
Yes, I can read it if you would like, if you don't have it there.
Yeah, I've got the amended that we discussed already. 1, Schedule F, Kingsmill Corner be revised to extend the settlement area to include the land designated home-based industrial park, and that are corresponding text changes to be made as necessary. And Schedule G, Luton be deleted in its entirety, that all subsequent schedules be relettered and all corresponding text changes be made as necessary. And Schedule D, Carlton be revised to extend. We didn't agree to that one.
No, that's not in there. Number 3 is that the clerk is hereby authorized to forward a copy of the official plan amendment number 20 to the County of Elgin for approval in accordance with the requirements of the Planning Act and regulations thereto, and that bylaw number 21-95 being a bylaw to adopt official plan amendment number 20 be given first, second, and third readings and properly signed and sealed.
Okay, as amended. Mover and seconder, please.
Move it.
Moved by Moore, seconder. Widner, all in favor?
Councillor Widner,
Yes.
Councillor Moore,
Yes.
Councillor Cerna, Councillor Cerna, Councillor Lewis,
Yes.
Councillor Glinski,
No.
Deputy Mayor Jiguer,
Yes.
Mayor Mennel.
Yes,
That's carried.
thank you. Thank you, Jay.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah.
And Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you.
Merry Christmas to you
Merry
too.
Christmas.
You.
Through you, your worship, I think Councillor Cerna is trying to get himself unmuted. You were muted there, Councillor. Oh, there you go.
I'm good now.
Okay.
I'd have voted for it.
Okay, thank you. Jeff, you are up. Where's Jeff? There he is. And Jeff, just a comment. Most of council saw that the rescue operation in Port Bruce on the weekend, and I just want to pass on my congratulations to all the firefighters for their heroic act and saving that individual that was on the pier. They acted very professional and very efficient. So if you can pass that on, that would be much appreciated.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think they all appreciate that their training that was provided And the equipment that we provided by the township's been put well into use and was able to save a life. So thank you.
Okay, now you've got the communication system support agreement.
That's right. So the service agreement from Bearcom is the renewal of our 3-year service agreement, which we already have for our radio system. The terms for this 3-year contract has dropped the monthly cost for the County of Elgin from $4,500 down to $3,700, I think it is in the report. Let's give me a second here. 3,800. That's the monthly fee drop down, so it'd be $100 per month savings for the township. The other part of the report there shows that there is since the radio system went into place in 2015, we're going to require some batteries, and that'll be coming in the near future. That quote that was attached in the correspondence shows the cost of the batteries coming up. Although we are looking into different pricing on the batteries itself. That was supplied by one supplier. So.
Okay, thank you, Jeff. Questions for Jeff on the agreement? Seeing none. Mover and seconder report number F2117 entitled Elgin County Fire Communication System Support Agreement be received. The Township of Malahide and Council authorize the signing of the intermunicipal agreement for joint ownership of the fire communication equipment. The Township of Malahide renew the system and support agreement with Bearcom Communication.
I'll move it.
Moved by Serna, seconder
Lewis.
Galinsky, all in favor?
Counselor Widner,
Yes.
Counselor Moore,
Yes.
Counselor Cerna,
Yes.
Counselor Lewis,
Yes.
Counselor Galinsky, Counselor Galinsky.
I think he's saying yes, but I don't know
Okay.
what's going on.
Deputy Mayor Jaguar,
Yes.
Mayor Mennel,
Yes,
that's carried.
thank you. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.
All right, Sam, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. One moment.
Okay, next report.
Sorry, one moment. My camera is not working.
I'm glad I'm not the only one.
For 1 second, but I'll, one moment. My apologies.
Look like a snowman right now.
Okay.
Yeah, right in the
I think I've
Christmas
almost
spirit.
got it here. Sorry about that. Okay. Good evening, your worship and members of council. So the report before you tonight is on behalf of the Elmer Area Secondary Water Supply System for a contract extension of the existing agreement with the Ontario Clean Water Agency for the operation of the EMPS Elgin Middlesex Pumping Station located in St. Thomas. And at their meeting held on December 8th, the Joint Board of Management accepted the proposal and has granted the contract extension. And as such, this report is to advise the council of the board's decision to authorize the township to enter into an agreement on the board's behalf. And I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have with the report.
Okay, thanks, Sam. Questions for Sam on the contract? Seeing none. Mover and seconder, report number PW 2162 entitled OCWA Contract Extension for the Operation and Maintenance of the Elgin Middlesex Pumping Station be received. Township of Malahide, on behalf of the Elmer Area Secondary Water Supply System, Joint Board of Management enter into the agreement with the Ontario Clean Water Association for a 5-year contract extension period for the purpose of operating and maintenance of the Elgin Middlesex Pumping Station.
I'll move.
Moved by Jaguar, seconder.
Second.
All in favor?
Counselor Widner,
Yes.
Counselor Moore,
Yes.
Counselor Cerna,
Yes.
Counselor Lewis,
Yes.
Counselor Galinsky, Counselor Galinsky,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Jaguar,
Yes.
Mayor Mennel,
Yes,
that's carried.
thank you. And now, Sam, the pumping station?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, the second report before council this evening is regarding the Elgin Middlesex Pumping Station, and it is a joint occupancy and use agreement for the Elmer Area Secondary Water Supply System, which is an agreement between the Elmer Joint Board, the St. Thomas Secondary Water Supply System, the City of London, and the Elgin Area Primary Water Supply System. And similarly to the last report, this report is to advise council of the board's decision to authorize the Township of Malahide to enter into the EMPS joint occupancy and use agreement on their behalf. And I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have regarding the report.
Okay, thanks, Sam. Questions for Sam on the pumping station? Seeing none, mover and seconder, report number PW-2163 entitled Elgin Middlesex Pumping Station Joint Occupancy and Use Agreement be received. And the mayor and the clerk of the Township of Malahide, on behalf of the Joint Board of Management, the Elmer Area Secondary Water Supply System, enter into the EMPS Joint Occupancy and Use Agreement, be in agreement with the Corporation of the City of London and St. Thomas Secondary Water Supply System, the Elmer Area Secondary Water Supply System, and the Elgin Area Primary Water Supply System for the use in the Elgin Middlesex Pumping Station. Mover and seconder.
Move it.
Moved by Lewis, seconder
Second.
by Widner, all in favor.
Counselor Widner,
Yes.
Counselor Moore,
Yes.
Counselor Cerna,
Yes.
Counselor Lewis,
Yes.
Counselor Galinsky,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Jaguar,
Yes.
Mayor Mennel,
Yes,
that's carried.
thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Sam. Next, we have correspondence. Committees of outside board, sorry. Two from the Long Point and one from the Elmer Area's Incorporated Water Supply System. Anyone wish to make comments? Questions? Mover and seconder for the reports.
Move it.
Moved by Moore, seconder
I'll second.
Cerna, all in favor.
Counselor Widner,
Yes.
Counselor Moore,
Yes.
Counselor Cerna,
Yes.
Counselor Lewis, Counselor Galinsky, Counselor Galinsky,
I read his lips. He said yes.
okay. Deputy Mayor Jaguar,
Yes.
Mayor Mennel,
Yes,
that's carried.
thank you. Next, we have correspondence, and there's 15 items on correspondence. Anyone wish to make comment, support?
I have one.
Go ahead, Mark.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Number 2, the town of Georgina, the resolution requesting provincial and federal governments to provide additional options for recycling of agricultural bale wrap and twine and boat shrink wrap. I think
Yeah,
it's getting to be a bigger problem. You see these white bales all over the country. There's no good spot to get rid of the plastic. So
I agree with you on that
Something to be
one,
done.
Mark. They're a bit of an eyesore when you go around the country, you see where the heck are they going?
yes,
Anyone else wish to make comment, support? So a motion to support number 2 and receive and file the balance. Mover and seconder, please.
move it.
Moved by Widner, seconder Galinsky, all in favor.
Sorry. Counselor Widner,
Yes.
Counselor Moore,
Yes.
Counselor Cerna,
Yes.
Counselor Lewis,
Yes.
Counselor Galinsky,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Jaguar,
Yes.
Mayor Mennel,
Yes,
that's carried.
other business, any other business? Correspondence to the County of Elgin. Adam, you want to address that?
Certainly. So there's been a request submitted to the county tree inspector. There's a parcel of land where the proposed purchaser wants to establish a dwelling essentially adjacent to an existing stand of trees. The county's tree bylaw requires a replacement. So if you take a certain number of trees away, you've got to replace them. So it is, this is, the township's been circulated in accordance with the county tree bylaw for comment. That's a requirement. In review, we have there's no zoning implications to the township zoning bylaw or other policy documents that we have. So it'd be my recommendation to council that shall have no concerns. It does not need to respond to this piece of correspondence.
Okay, thank you, Adam. Questions for Adam? Seeing none. Mover and seconder, the County of Elgin correspondence relating to proposed woodland clearing, the South Putter Lot 12, Concession 11, Geograph Township, Township South Dorchester, Township of Malahide be received. Mover and seconder,
Move it.
Jagger, seconder, Lewis, all in favor?
Counselor Widner,
Yes.
Counselor Moore,
Yes.
Counselor Cerna,
Yes.
Counselor Lewis,
Yes.
Counselor Galinsky,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Jiguer,
Yes.
Mayor Mennel.
Yes,
That's carried.
thank you. Next, we have bylaws. Mover and seconder, bylaw number 21-89 be a bylaw to authorize the execution of an agreement with Intervote System for the voting of internet and telephone for the 2022 municipal election be given a first, second, third reading, properly signed and sealed. Moving
I'll
seconder,
move it. I'll move it.
Lewis, all in favor? Allison, you're muted. There you
Yeah, Counselor Widner,
Yes.
Counselor Moore,
Yes.
Counselor Cerna,
Yes.
Counselor Lewis,
Yes.
Counselor Galinsky,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Jiguer,
Yes.
Mayor Mennel.
go. Yes,
That's carried.
thank you. And mover and seconder, bylaw number 21-91 being a bylaw to authorize the execution of the amending agreement with Ontario Clean Water Agency for the provision of operating and maintenance of service for water facilities be given a first, second, third reading, properly signed and sealed.
I'll move it.
Moved by Cerna, seconder,
Jiguer, I'll move.
Yes.
Jagger, all in favor?
Counselor Widner,
Yes.
Counselor Moore,
Yes.
Counselor Cerna,
Yes.
Counselor Lewis,
Yes.
Counselor Galinsky, Deputy Mayor Jiguer,
Yes.
Mayor Mennel.
Yes,
That's carried.
thank you. And mover and seconder, bylaw number 21-93 being a bylaw to authorize the execution of an agreement with Comprint System Incorporated doing business at Data Fix to provide electronic list management services be given a first, second, third reading, properly signed and sealed. Mover and seconder, Lewis, seconder,
Cerna.
Cerna, all in favor?
Counselor Widner,
Yes.
Counselor Moore,
Yes.
Counselor Cerna,
Yes.
Counselor Lewis,
Yes.
Counselor Galinsky, Deputy Mayor Jiguer,
Yes.
Mayor Mennel.
Yes.
That's carried.
Thank
Your
you.
worship, did you miss 21-92 by chance
Let me see if there's one stuck together.
for the Elgin Middlesex pumping station?
Oh, yeah, there's one stuck together here.
Okay.
Yep. No, that's 91.
91 was Aqua, the one before that.
Yep. Unless there's, oh, yeah, yeah. Here's another one here. Mover and seconder, bylaw number 21-92 being a bylaw to authorize the execution of a joint occupancy and use agreement for the Elgin Middlesex pumping station be given a first, second, third reading, properly signed and sealed.
Move it.
Moved by Widner, second by Lewis, all in favor?
Counselor Widner,
Yes.
Counselor Moore,
Yes.
Counselor Cerna,
Yes.
Counselor Lewis,
Yes.
Counselor Galinsky, Deputy Mayor Jiguer,
Yes.
Mayor Mennel,
Yes.
that's carried.
Thank you. And mover and seconder bylaw number 2194, being a bylaw to authorize the temporary boring during the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2022, be given a first, second, third reading, properly signed and sealed.
Move it.
Moore and
And that,
Galinsky, all in favor?
Counselor Widner,
Yes.
Counselor Moore,
Yes.
Counselor Cerna,
Yes.
Counselor Lewis,
Yes.
Counselor Galinsky,
yes,
Deputy Mayor Jiguer,
Yes.
Mayor Mennel,
Yes.
that's carried.
Thank you. And finally, bylaw number 2188, being a bylaw to authorize the intermunicipal agreement for the joint ownership of the fire communication equipment, given a first, second, third reading, properly signed and sealed.
I'll move.
Serna and Widner, all in favor?
Counselor Widner,
Yes.
Counselor Moore,
Yes.
Counselor Cerna,
Yes.
Counselor Lewis,
Yes.
Counselor Galinsky,
yes,
Deputy Mayor Jiguer,
Yes.
Mayor Mennel,
Yes.
that's carried.
Thank you. And finally, bylaw number 21-90, being a confirmatory bylaw, be given a first, second, third reading, properly signed and sealed.
Move it.
Moore and
I'll second it.
Berta, all in favor?
Counselor Widner,
Yes.
Counselor Moore,
Yes.
Counselor Cerna,
Yes.
Counselor Lewis,
Yes.
Counselor Galinsky, Deputy
I
Mayor,
read his lips. He said yes.
I saw my lips say yes.
I just saw that. About time, Chester.
Deputy Mayor Jiguer,
Yes. Yes.
Mayor Mennel,
Yes.
that's carried.
And finally, the council adjourns meeting at 8:45. To meet again on January 6, 2022 at 7:30. Galinsky and Widner, all in favor?
Counselor Widner,
Yes. Merry
Counsel-
Christmas.
Counselor Moore,
Yes.
Counselor Cerna,
Yes, and Merry Christmas to you guys too.
Counselor Lewis,
Yes, and Merry Christmas.
Counselor Galinsky,
yes, and Merry Christmas to everyone.
Deputy Mayor Jiguer,
Yes. Merry Christmas.
Mayor Mennel,
Yes.
and that's carried.
That's it, folks. So enjoy your holidays, give your family hugs and be safe.
Yes.
Do the same.
Gotta be safe.
Take care.
Good night.
Good night.
Keep up the good work, Jeff. Doing great. That was